I have been over here for almost 7 years now.
Wow.
I know, right?
Right.
And with no intention of going back, I can tell you that.
Hello, everybody, and welcome into the inaugural episode of the Warrior Sports Network podcast. I'm Brady Beedon, and this is going to be a very special first episode as we're going to have our athletic director, Ms. Erika Wallace, on with us, and there's a lot to go over. So what I hope this starts is kind of a tradition where at the end of every calendar year, we can sit back and kind of do a state of Wayne State athletics. Before we get into that, Erika, let's talk about what this whole thing is, what people, if they're listening to it, if they're watching it, what this is in our new studio and what the Warrior Sports Network is. We kind of soft launched it during the fall season. It's continued on to the winter, but it's continuing to grow. Let's talk about that and this platform that we're on right now.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for having me, Brady.
Of course.
We are excited to launch our Warrior Network, which we've kind of, like you said, we've kind of already soft launched
in phases.
it. Correct.
Yes.
Little sneak peeks here and there. And really, I mean, the background behind this is just to tell our story a little bit more, right? There are different ways to do that. And for me personally, you know, a lot of times people do like newsletters or monthly updates. And, but for me, it was like, how do we get the personalities of people out? Like, how do we really get in front of our audiences and our fans and our alumni and our parents and, have them learn a little bit more about Wayne State athletics from the actual people that are doing the day to day.
Right.
Our student athletes who are competing and going to school the day to day, but just really hearing it from face-to-face conversation. And so I'm excited about it. I mean, this is going to be, I think our first one we're putting out, so no pressure.
No,
right?
no, hope. Listen, this is going to be a fun one to start. So just a little bit of more background. We started talking about this probably over a year ago.
Right.
Wayne State had been on terrestrial radio forever, and that's where you'd listen to a lot of Wayne State games. And when we decided to pivot, we kind of said, well, we can do this all in-house. And these were conversations we had going back and forth, and this was part of it, is to get this out. So this episode, it's just going to be me and Erika talking about a whole variety of topics, a little about your background, a little bit about what's going on now, the future, the time you've already spent here. But in the future, just so people are aware, what this is going to be, it's going to be out once a week. We're going to have, I'm going to recap everything that happened in athletics the week before, have a guest on every week. And like Erika said, that might be a faculty member, it might be a player, it might be a coach, it might be an alumni that's in town, something like that to give you a different taste of Wayne State athletics. And then a preview of what's going on the next week. So from, the first serve or the first kickoff in the fall to the last pitch is thrown or whatever in the spring, we're going to have this for you. So now that all that is out of the way, let's get into this and let's talk a little bit about Erika Wallace. So let's go back before you were even a Wayne State Warrior. You were around, but you were an athlete at Grand Valley.
You said it.
Yes, we can admit it. It is documented, a very successful one. So I guess my first question for you is, once you came over to Wayne State, how long did it take you to get your wardrobe to green and gold from all the blue and white and black? Because, I know I have a whole drawer of just Wayne State stuff.
Yeah.
If I went to a different school, I'd either have to, Goodwill would get a good donation that week, or I'd have to get a storage unit. How long did it take you to make that transition?
Not very long. I will say that. For me, coming to Wayne State was a decision that I made because I wanted to be here. And there's a lot of reasons of why I wanted to be here. But one of them being just what Wayne State was as an institution. And so for me, like you said, I like to tell people that I feel like I grew up in the GLIAC. Like I really did. I was 17-year-old that went to Grand Valley. Yes, we say it every now and then, but went to Grand Valley straight out of high school, and then continued working within the athletic department and within enrollment management for about 15 years. And so I've really, spent my entire career in the GLIAC. And so for me, coming to Wayne State, it was always this almost kind of a mystery of what Wayne State was, I will say. I knew it was a large public urban serving institution, and that really intrigued me on kind of the philosophy behind what Wayne State was as an institution. And for me, the location was exactly where I wanted to be. And so it was almost a no-brainer when the opportunity presented itself. And I came to campus and I visited, and I went home back to the west side of the state, and I said to my husband, like, I think it's time. I really do. I stepped foot on campus. I enjoyed where I was. Wayne State has a lot of great things going for them, and I kind of want to be a part of that.
Right. So, and when you came over, you didn't come over straight as the athletic director.
Right.
Just talk a little bit about that step up from you came over and then you worked your way towards this role. When you first came over, it was to do what?
So when I came over, I was the chief of staff for the athletic director. So still within the athletic department. I was coming from a role of associate athletic director, senior woman administrator at Grand Valley, but was mainly doing compliance over there. So I was doing all of the NCAA compliance for the entire athletic department. And so the opportunity to come to Wayne State allowed me to dip my toes in some different areas when it came to kind of overseeing or helping the athletic director oversee the entire athletic department, not just compliance, but then also building our new field house. And so the partnership with the Detroit Pistons and really starting to do the construction, I had a lot of oversight and oversaw that entire project.
So that's your first big project.
Yeah.
That's you come over and you immediately sink your teeth into the field house.
I sure did. And so an awesome learning opportunity for me, but then also just learning kind of the dynamics of what construction is, but then also the dynamics of the city, because there were a lot of stakeholders in that project.
Right.
And so it was fun for me to be able to really start to look at the different angles of athletic administration and what that does, not only for an athletic department, but also for an institution.
So, I always ask when I do interviews with players, I always like to ask, what's the difference, between the West Side and here? Because they're both nice campuses in their own ways. They're very different, not saying, it's all preference, but the Grand Valley campus and the Wayne State campus are quite very different
They sure
just
are.
from location. I know they're not far from Grand Rapids, but they're not in downtown Grand Rapids like Detroit and Wayne State.
Allendale and Detroit are very different.
Right.
And I did spend some time in admissions. I did work in admissions for a little bit. And what I used to always tell students when I worked in admissions was, it's kind of like a shoe. You got to try them on, right? You got to try them on and see where you fit best. But for me, the urban setting was something I always wanted. And I came from a small farm town in Schoolcraft, Michigan. I went to college in Allendale, Michigan. And so even just driving into the city for the day when I came and visited, it was kind of like this aha moment for me. And being in the city and being on the east side of the state is something that, my family and I have been over here for almost 7 years now.
Wow.
I know, right? And with no intention of going back, I can tell you that. So we really do enjoy it over here.
Well, how often do you hear that from whether it's student athletes or people around there? Because I can say I was a part of that through high school. I'm going through the recruiting process, and it's like, when my dad asked me one time, he's like, do you want to go to school in Detroit? And I'm like, no. Like that didn't, and then I came down on a visit. Because like you said, you give everything a try and like that.
Yeah.
Like within weeks, I was committed here. So how often do you hear stories like that from people within the athletic department or just on campus?
All the time. If I had to put a percentage to it, it's like 95% of the time. Once we get them here, then it's like, oh my goodness.
Right.
Like this campus has a lot. And I think there's this misconception out there about Wayne State, like, we don't have living on campus and there's not a lot going on.
It was a commuter school for, I guess their parents' lives.
Correct.
So they're probably hearing from aunt, uncle, grandma, grandpa, like, oh, that's just a commuter school.
Correct.
No.
It is not.
Even since I've been there, the dorms are a lot nicer.
I know.
I'm jealous now.
I know. I would live on campus.
Right?
But in Midtown too, right? Midtown has completely transformed in the last decade. And so it's the place to be. And so when recruits come into town and they're coming with their parents and they're not used to Detroit or haven't been to Detroit in a while, once they get here, it's kind of eye-opening to what the city is. And I think that's the exciting part about who we are, but also what we're becoming.
Right. Yeah, and obviously the city of Detroit following suit helps things out as well. I'm sure it's getting less and less of that stigma, but it's still something that's tough to break if people haven't been on campus.
Yeah, for sure. And that's the part for me is, Wayne State is such a part of Detroit, and Detroit is a part of Wayne State. And so that is the difference when people ask me, what's the difference? Like, what is Wayne State and how does it interact with the city? And is it a part of the city? And it's like, no, it is absolutely ingrained in the city of Detroit. And so I think that's the part for me is who we serve and why we serve the students that we do. That's the part that really just gives me purpose in what I do every day.
All right, so you're here at Wayne State, and maybe a little more hastily than you thought, you become interim athletic director at the time. So that's got to be kind of a whirlwind, because I'm sure that's always been a goal, keep moving up, be in charge of an athletic department, and you end up in that role. What was that like for you going from, hey, I'm working here, and now, all right, you're the interim, and there's always that uncertainty with the word interim.
Yeah.
Am I just a placeholder, or am I getting the test run? What was that like for you being interim athletic director? Because I'm sure that's very nerve-wracking at times because you're trying to do your best, but you don't have all the keys to the castle yet. So what was that like?
It was challenging for sure. I mean, that would be a lie if I said like, oh, it was easy, just smooth sailing, no problem.
Just brush it off the shoulder, no worries.
It was challenging, and for me, I did know I wanted to be an athletic director, so that was helpful. I didn't think it would happen that quickly, if I'm being honest, and for me, it was really understanding. I had already been at Wayne State for 3 years, and so I had already built relationships with our coaches and our staff, but now they had to look at me in a different light, right? So now, even though I was, the chief of staff, now I'm the athletic director.
Right, you won't go from being kind of the go-between, like, all right, I'm good cop and trying to play off bad cop, that now you might have to be a little more stern with them. Now I'm the boss.
Yes, and two, as the interim role, there's some uncertainty of like, well, is she going to get the job?
Right.
Does she even want the job? What's going to happen? And so for me, it was really about trying to be as authentic as I could be and tell people who I am and what I value and try to create some stability. And so, when things are changing, change is hard and it's hard for everybody. And so for me, it was important that I came in very consistently and I was able to tell people like, yeah, things are changing. I don't know what the answers are, and I'm not sure yet. And as honest as I can be with you, I will be. And so hopefully we can build that trust and we can still move forward. And that was the big thing for me. I had no idea how long the term was going to be. Right. I had no idea how long I would be in the interim role, but we still had a mission to really serve our student athletes. And so it wasn't going to be just status quo. We were still going to move forward. And so that was one of the things that when President Wilson at the time named me interim, he said, I really want to see you still lead this department. And so I think that probably gave me the confidence to say, okay, like that's what I'm going to do until I'm not doing it anymore.
Right. So until you take it away, I'm just going to act like, I'm going to be here for a long time. So when did you find out that you were no longer interim athletic director and just athletic director?
I got a call.
Really?
Yeah. So got a call and was told that there was some confidence, obviously, in my leadership and where the department was heading. And so wanted to name me the permanent athletic director. And so that was an exciting call. And I accepted it with obviously no hesitation whatsoever. And I think the one thing for me I was excited about was like, okay, all this momentum that we have, everything that we've started, I can now begin to see that through.
Yes, I know that if I have a 5-year project or a 5-year plan, I'm going to be here in year 5.
Correct.
How much of a weight off that shoulders was that for you? Because, I mean, that was a whirlwind of a time. You're trying to manage, Wayne State's first football coaching search in 20 years.
Yep.
So that's obviously something that everyone's going to have the eyes on. You're going through, again, same athletic director for about that same amount of time, a lot of change. So when you get that vote of confidence, how much was it just like, okay,
It was.
We've got this.
We've got this, right? And that's what I wanted people to know, was that we were going to build off that momentum of the past 20 years, right? So there were a lot of things that we were already doing super well. And so there was no reason to change things that we're already doing. But, with the evolution of college athletics and where we've been.
And especially though that was 2022.
Yep.
So that's like right when there's change,
Yep.
but you don't know how it's going to change.
Yep.
Are there rules? Is it the Wild West?
Yep.
And
it turns out it is.
Yes, and you have to figure that out on the fly.
On the fly.
You have to guess how it's going to go.
We sure did. And so there was, we saw it all coming. It was like, all right, transfer portal is about to take off. Like, what is this going to be? NIL is coming through. We're going to possibly be having to pay student athletes.
Right.
Like, what does
Are
that
they going to
look
be
like?
employees?
Correct. So it was a lot of change happening at once, not only within the realm of the landscape of college athletics, but also here at Wayne State.
Right.
And so for me, it was important to get a good team around me, and that was also knowledgeable in these areas, and really start to, what I would say is, take care of home first. And so that was kind of our mission going forward into year one. I kept telling my senior staff, like, there's a lot of things we can be doing, and there's a lot of momentum we have. There's a lot of positive things happening, but we really have to make sure we set our foundation. And what is that foundation? How do we set that so that we are able to take on all of these challenges when they come? Because they're coming.
Right. So you bring those up. So let's talk about that for a second. So I'm sure as all the coaches are having a time and a half trying to figure out how to handle, especially at the D2 level, because you're caught in between where, you're big enough that you might have a little bit of that NIL stuff, but you're also not big enough that, hey, you recruit the best basketball player. I mean, we just saw it this last year. Had some really nice basketball players. At the end of the season, D1s are calling and they're writing a big check, and what are you going to tell the kid? No. So
right.
How do you try to, I guess, empower your coaches and lead the coaches through, uncertain times where we just said we don't know where it's going, but try to give them the resources you think are necessary? How do you handle that from the athletic director's point of view?
I think for me, it's important to be open and transparent with our coaches, and allowing them a space to sometimes just vent on the struggles that they have at a Division II institution, but then also letting them know that they're not alone, and that there's a lot of other Division II institutions that are experiencing things very, very similar to what we are. So it's just kind of validating their concerns, part of it, but then also, how do we navigate, or how do we set a structure in place where when student athletes come here, they like it, they have a great experience, and they want to stay. And so we know that sometimes dollars talk more than experience, right? But I mean, once again, you can't blame those student athletes for that.
No,
right?
It's such a hard, and especially you're telling a young kid, like, all right, we'll use the example that just happened this past fall. At Saginaw Valley, Mason McKenzie gets named GLIAC Player of the Year, and 10 seconds later, he's in the portal and has 20 D1 offers.
Yeah. That is the landscape we're in. This is college athletics, right? And so for me, fighting against that is not anything that
it's a losing battle.
Correct. So we can vent. We can talk about how we are having struggles compared to how the landscape used to be, but it's not that anymore. And so we really have to challenge our student athletes and our coaches to live in the moment. And what is this year? Right. What is this year? How do we develop? How do we ensure student athletes are taking the right classes for graduation? I mean, all of those philosophies still stay the same. It's just we're working, rather than working 5 years out, we're working about 6 months to a year.
Because there's no longer, hey, I'm going to bring in this freshman. He might be a bit of a project, but in 3 years, he might be a stud. And that's not there anymore. Because not to say the new way's better, but it's reality.
It's reality. And
you have to live in
it. Where we are. And so that's the piece where, I'm in a lot of different groups with other athletic directors, and I think that's the common thread that I keep hearing is the strategic plan of, like, okay, 2032, that's going to change.
Yeah, right.
And we have to be ready to pivot. And so it's really planning out 6 months to a year and seeing where we are at that point to see if we need to pivot from that. But the long-term strategic plans are very difficult right now in college athletics.
So back to when you first get named permanent athletic director, what were some of those plans, those early ones that you wanted to implement that we're starting to see now that you're a few years in that, started when you first took over and you really got going then?
Yeah. Well, there were a couple of things that we really focused on. But first, when I first took over as interim, what I had everyone in the athletic department do is go through a SWOT analysis. So I had everyone go through, kind of list out what the strengths and the weaknesses, opportunities, and threats would be from their perspective within our athletic department. And we kind of put up these big Post-its all over the conference room. And I had people come in and write things down. They did not have to put their name next to it. It was okay. And we started to see some common threads through that. And so for me, it was really good to know whether or not, even though I'd already been here for 3 years, I felt like I had a good idea, a good grasp on where we were. But I wanted to make sure we were all aligned. And so for me, it was eye-opening to be able to say, like, okay, like, we are.
Right.
And I think that was reassuring for me to know, like, okay, we're on the same page here. We just have to shift a few things in order to have the foundation that we need. And so I did have to do some restructuring within our athletic department on the administrative side. Had to restructure kind of who was reporting to who and what made sense, because I knew our external brand had to grow significantly.
Right.
And so really trying to structure so that internally we had the right people in place, externally we had the right people in place, so that when we were ready to kind of go, we were ready to go. So that was kind of the first thing for me, was making sure that people knew what their roles were, being transparent about that. And what I did was I did sit down with everybody one-on-one and say, here's your role. Here's what your responsibilities are. Do we agree on this? This is what I've been seeing you do for the last 3 years. We might need to pivot a little bit from that. Are you okay with that? And really having those open conversations with everyone. Obviously, it takes time.
Yes, it's not an overnight thing.
It's not an overnight thing. It's a culture shift. The transparency was something that wasn't around, I would say, a lot prior to me. And so it was really trying to get people to open up and tell me what they need in order to be successful. And so really that took, I would say we're still going through it.
You always are, though. Right? When you're leading a large group of people, you're always constantly trying to figure out what person. It's no different than a coach. Roles are always, you think one person's going to be in this role, and it turns out they're maybe better at this, not as good at that, so you have to shift it a little.
Yep. So I'm hoping now we're at a point where people feel comfortable in the role that they're in, but then also comfortable to express if there's something else, and is there something we're missing. So that's one of the things for me, is just setting up that culture. And we're still living through that right now. We're 2.5 years in, but then putting a structure to it. So one of the things we talk about a lot, and one of the things that we did not change, were what we called our pillars. We call them our standards now. A matter of vocabulary.
Tomato.
I know. And in that being academic excellence, community engagement, competitive excellence, and we added a fourth one, which was character development. And so those are our 4 standards. And so all the decisions that we make fall under one of those buckets. And so really kind of setting that foundation, like I say, with our 4 standards, and then moving forward from there. So we're at a point now where we have our standards. We call it our 4 standards, 1 culture, better together. And really talking about being collaborative, better together. Let's talk about things and put them out on the table, because the more diversity we have in thought, the better we're going to be. And so those were the things that we really started to do early on. And you can see that coming out with a lot of our external stuff that we do. Obviously, we have a social media brand now.
Mm-hmm.
Wasn't too heavy before, but
Right.
been very strategic about that and how we roll out things
Right.
without having the resources that we
Right.
all would want, right?
Yes.
And that would be the other thing is our resources. So as the leader, it's now my job to really go and advocate for Wayne State athletics.
Mm-hmm.
And what does that mean? You know, we have capital projects. We have a big university here
Right.
with a lot of competing interests.
Yes.
And I respect all of those competing interests.
But you got to get your share of the pie too.
Correct. And so how can we go about talking about things that we need? We have a lot of deferred maintenance things around Wayne State. It's an old campus.
It is.
There's going to be. But really talking about bringing in revenue and what does that look like and having a strategy behind that. So those are all the things we've been really setting up. And then the culture piece, talking with our coaches and talking with our student athletes about what are your needs and what are you looking for. It was evident from day one that our mental health resources were not where they needed to be.
That was an early initiative.
That was very early.
Push, yes.
Yes. And so that was one of those things where I sat back and said, I don't need 6 months to figure this out.
Right.
Like this needs to happen yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
So we were in a position where there was a position that was open and using that position to restructure our athletic department, I was able to create a mental health and wellness counselor. But that was in partnership with the university and CAPS, our counseling services at the university. So there were a lot of hands in the pot trying to figure out how this would work, but everyone knew it needed to happen. And so that was kind of one of those first initiatives right off the bat of what do our student athletes need immediately that I can do, and mental health and wellness was by far the overarching, we need this.
Right, the immediate impact.
Yes.
So when you get to sit in the AD's chair, what was something that maybe from the outside looking in you didn't realize would be such a challenge, or maybe something that you didn't realize an AD has to deal with that, you know, from the outside you go, oh yeah, it's not, and then you're in the arena and you go, oh, this is what they were all talking about.
Well, I mean, everything comes to you when you're in the seat, right? And so there are certain times where decisions have to be made, and you are trying to decide whether that's you making that decision or are you empowering someone else to make that decision. So I think for me, one of the biggest things was the collaboration across campus, which when I took over the role was not strong. And so for me, that was kind of surprising to me because I would have thought that our collaboration as an athletic department with other campus partners would have been strong. And so for me, it was kind of starting from ground zero of, hello, my name is Erika Wallace, and I am the athletic director.
Here's my business card.
There's
this building called the Math Eye. You can find me there.
Come on over. Can we have lunch? And so for me, it was really cultivating and developing internal relationships within the university, because we all have the same goal. We all want Wayne State to be awesome. Right? That's what we all want. And so how can I help you? How can you help me? How can we align so that we're on the same page? But yeah, I think I did way more of that than what I was expecting. I thought I would be doing more athletic stuff.
No, a lot of handshakes, a lot of meetings.
Yeah, I was like, can I just go to a game, please?
Right. When do they tip off?
I know.
So let's talk a little bit about the athletes and the athletics. Before we get into the actual teams and everything, one thing you mentioned is character development, adding that as the fourth pillar standard. If a student comes and hopefully they stay for 5 years, if you commit, see you in 5 years, no need to leave. What is that? What are you guys actively doing to try and, you know, build that and have those, you know, defining moments to turn someone from, you know, an 18-year-old kid to a 22, 23-year-old adult?
Yeah. This is for one, this is why I absolutely love what I do. And this is why I do what I do, because I truly feel like in anyone's personal journey, the college years are so transformational for people. And so we have a duty. We absolutely do. And so that's what I tell our coaches. That's what I tell our staff is we have a duty to help these people develop as individuals, because who they are when they walk in our door is not going to be who they are when they leave, hopefully 4
Right.
5 years later,
Right.
but maybe 1.
Or if they come in later, 2 or 3.
Correct. But that is our job. That is why we do what we do. And so one of the things that I did my first year was we partnered with a firm called 925 Leaders.
Okay.
And they are essentially a firm that comes in, consultants that come in, and they work with our programs and they work with our teams on culture and development and personal development and professional development. And the reason for that, and the reason I had to go to the outside, was because we just didn't have the capacity to do that internally. We don't have the staff. If I were to say, like, who wants to do this, we would all raise our hand.
Right.
We all want to do this. But when you go through your day-to-day of what your responsibilities are, that seems to be always the one that kind of gets pushed to the back burner.
Right.
And especially for our coaches too, right? I mean, our coaches are obviously developing people, but they're also scheduling.
Right.
They're fundraising.
And it's never something that's a pressing need. There's never like, oh, it's the culture building day. Like, no, it's signing day. It's we need to get the film done. Like, those have hard deadlines.
Correct. So I knew this individual. His name is Sterling Brown. I knew this individual from former relationships that I've had. And I called him up when I got the athletic director position and kind of just had a heart-to-heart with him of like, here's where I am. Here's where Wayne State Athletics is. And we're really missing a key piece that I feel like in supporting our student athletes. I did the mental health thing. We needed that, but now we need something to help develop them as human beings, and then also cultures on a team, because learning how to be a good teammate is going to help you throughout your entire life.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, you're doing it to hopefully be successful in your sport, but then also you're graduating, you're getting that first job,
right? And
you still have to be a good teammate.
Yes.
And so we went through, he came to campus, he did some team building stuff with our staff and our coaches first, really started to integrate him with our staff and our coaches so that they could get comfortable with him being on campus. And then he started to get more involved with programs and teams. So we just brought them on, and they're on for a year 3, and they're actually on campus once a month. They meet with different teams and programs once a month. Each team is a little bit different and what they do for that program. But I know when they were meeting with softball, they talked a lot about, like, who are we as a program? What are our values? And then they got these big signs printed on what their values are. And so when he comes on campus, or when 925 comes on campus, they sit down and they remind them, like, hey, remember, we talked about this last time. Where are we at with it? So just allows for kind of an external person to come in and create some dialogue within teams, and so that they can be open and honest with each other and really start to develop as people, but then also as a program.
Right, because they kind of go, like you said, they go hand in hand.
Yeah.
So, okay, when everything's said and done, and let's say you're having an exit interview with a senior, what are you hoping to hear from that athlete?
Oh, that's a great question, Brady. I'm hoping that they are leaving feeling prepared for the real world, love for Wayne State and for Wayne State Athletics, and wanting kind of sad because they're leaving.
You're right. It's done, but it's a new chapter.
But it's a new chapter, and that they want to come back. And I think that's the piece for me is building an alumni base that wants to be here and wants to come back and be a part of it and kind of help that next generation that's coming through. So for me, it's all about the experience. I hope they're leaving with a degree too.
Right. Well,
I didn't mention that.
That's part of the exit interview.
Yes.
That's graduation.
Yes.
That's kind of implied.
Right.
That if you're leaving, it's hopefully with a degree.
I hope they're leaving with a degree. I hope they're leaving with lifelong friendships and relationships. And I'm really hoping that they want to come back.
So let's talk a minute about just the athletics this year right now. Let's start with, we can't bury the lead. How about that volleyball program? That was an awesome year. 40 years since they last won the GLIAC. What, just from the athletic director position, how is it just sit back and just be proud of that team?
Oh my gosh, yeah, so proud of that team.
Right.
They've done a lot of work too behind the scenes. Actually, they've done a lot of work with 925 leaders, which is very, very cool to see kind of that come through. But yeah, I mean, they talk about the epitome of leaders and having strong leadership within a program. I mean, if you looked out there, you knew who the leaders were.
Right. Oh,
right? Yeah. And you could just watch the match and know who the leaders were. But then all kind of rallying around and serving their role. And I think that's what the big part is, especially in sports today, is what is my role? And am I okay in living that role and being that role? And they all bought in. And so it was very fun to watch them go through. I think they're going to be good again next year, too.
That's the plan.
That's the plan. And so once you can have kind of this sustained success, that's where it's important, right? A lot of times you can have one good season, or there's one good season and then you have a lull.
Right.
But what we're trying to do is build a culture that sustains the success that we have, which takes time.
Right.
It does. It takes time. And so that's what I keep reminding people is we've been going at this. Obviously, Wayne State Athletics has been around since 1918, which is a very long time. But there's been a lot of shift in the last 2.5 years. And so things take time, and you have to get buy-in. And so we live in this culture, especially in athletics right now, of kind of like these quick fix mechanisms that we want. But there's certain things that come with that.
Right.
And one of those is support and revenue. And if you don't have a lot of that, you do have to take your time and build. And so we've been building, and we're going to continue to build, but that's really what I watch this volleyball program and what I've watched them do over the last 3 years. They have been strategically building to where they were this year.
Well, you mentioned the quick fix, and let me ask you this, because the trend, especially in college football this year, I mean, you saw it everywhere. Yeah. You know, Penn State goes from number 2 in the country to firing their head coach. I mean, heck, it seems like half the schools in the state are looking for head coaches right now. You have said, you're saying we're sticking with Coach Wheatley, and obviously probably not one that's given you a lot of love letters right now after a tough season. But from your perspective, what are you seeing that you're saying, yes, we're building and the fruits of the labor are going to come later?
Yeah. When we talk about culture, that's what I'm talking about. And for me, it's important that I support all of our head coaches, right? And give them the opportunity to build. Now, if we had tons of NIL money and we could flip rosters like a lot of people can, we're not in that position.
No.
And I think it's important that people understand that Division II sports are very different than Division I right now, more than they ever have been before. We're losing them. Right, we're losing Division II student athletes because they're getting paid to go and play at Division I, some mid-major. And that's okay, because that's the landscape that we're in, and no fault to them. But we just don't have the ability to do that in Division II. I mean, we literally can't.
If there was a 7-figure bankroll ready to get players to stay, that's a different story.
It's a different story.
But again, reality, like we said earlier.
It's reality. And so I think for me, obviously I have been really in lockstep with the football program. I think this year more than ever. I think if you would ask the players, they would say they saw me a lot this year, which they did. I went to a lot of practices this year. I had team meetings with them this year. So I have an open door policy with the entire football program, and I told them that in front of all the coaches. So again, it's this transparency talk, right? Like, let's be transparent. Let's talk about where we are.
Back to where you were day one.
Correct. Let's talk about where we are and where we want to be, and how do we get there. And so obviously Coach Wheatley and I have had some good conversations,
right.
some not so good conversations, because
right.
I'm open with him.
Right. All right, so we're talking about building, a culture and building up a program. One other one, I'm going to let you talk about the women's basketball team because, they made, obviously, you can say you're a little biased towards basketball.
No,
I am
never, Brady.
But they make the national tournament last year. They only basically half their losses were to Grand Valley, who was they've been what they've been.
Yep.
Someone set that standard. But what have they done? Because, you talk about having one good year, and they seem to be building on it this year. As we're recording this, one of their last games, there was a great win against Ferris.
Very good.
What does that 1 year do that you see the jolt and then the energy coming back for this year?
Mm-hmm. I always tell people, once you've experienced a little bit of success, it's kind of like this fuel that you have.
Yeah, losing sucks more after that.
Correct. Yes. It's like I've always hated to lose more than I've loved to win. Like that's just who I am as a person. But it's that success that you have it's kind of like fuels those around you. And so that's what we're trying to build as an athletic department, but it starts very small with individual programs, right? And women's basketball, yes, great example of what they did last year. And you're going to hear me say the same thing about every program that we have that is successful. They have strong leadership, and that's not coming from the coaches. The leadership is coming from within that program. And it's up to the coaches to kind of help foster that, right? And develop that culture and hold others accountable when they're not living that standard. But it is within the team, and it is up to the team to kind of have those standards. And that's when I talk about culture, I talk about it a lot. I know that, but that's where 925 Leaders comes in, sits down with the team, and helps them establish that a little bit. All right, like it's team buy-in. It's not the coach coming in and saying, this is what we are, right?
Right.
It's the team saying, no, this is what we are. And the coach having a say, absolutely, on what they are, but then coming together as a group. And I saw women's basketball do that a lot last year. And so it's fun to be able to see kind of that turnover. And then your freshmen and your sophomores become juniors and seniors, and now they get to establish that culture.
Now they're 2 years in, and all they know is they win a lot. And when they're not doing that, they get upset.
Yep.
When you started out as AD, did anyone tell you how to handle if an athlete was going to be an Olympian? What that was like with fencing?
No one prepares you for that.
You don't really think about that, but then you go, oh, hey.
Pretty cool.
Yeah, I know him.
I know. Pretty cool. I mean, and what that does for not just the athletic department, but for the university, right? It's like, oh my gosh. Like, I mean, just being on that stage and knowing that he walked in these hallways and he attributes so much of his success to Wayne State is super cool. But I think it's cool for our student athletes too to be able to see that, right? Like I can be that.
Right.
Like I literally could be that someday because he came from Wayne State.
Or even something as small as you're on social media and you see the graphic of like, this is where all the Olympians went to college, and then you see the shield and the W.
We're in there.
You're like, hey, we're a part of that.
We are.
And there's not a lot of D2 schools out there that send Olympians out there.
Correct.
So that had to help out. That had to be a pretty good boost to the program or just the department as a whole.
Yeah, absolutely. And fencing is such an awesome sport. And so I think that too, for me, coming to Wayne State, I didn't know a lot about fencing.
Right.
And then I had to hire a head coach, and I didn't know a lot about fencing. And it was actually eye-opening for me. But again, I didn't know a lot about fencing, had to hire a head coach. So I brought in a captain to be on the committee with me, right? I brought in a captain that had been around for a while and was able to really teach me about the sport of fencing. But I've always told people it's not about the X's and O's being an athletic director. Yes, I never fenced, but I also never played tennis.
Right.
I never swam. I did play softball in high school. Never played football. Right. And so a lot of times people want to say like, well, they don't know the sport because they've never played it. And it's really about when you're hiring people and when people are around, it's really about who is that person and can they lead a program. And the X's and O's kind of, it's important that you have someone that knows the X's and O's, right? But when you're hiring someone, especially when we were going through that fencing coach hire, it was really about who was that person.
All right, we've talked about what's going on now. Real quick, any glaring omissions I missed about right now? Because I know there's a lot of good things happening in Wayne State athletics, and we didn't have time to brag about all of them.
I know. I think, well, our facility upgrades, that's a huge win, right? I mean, so for us, like I said, early on, I had to do a lot of advocating for Wayne State athletics and what we need. And we were able to get air conditioning in the math eye. I know people don't understand. Like, it's a big deal.
Especially when you're working a late May day and there's a bunch of athletes going through.
I know.
Yeah, there's a lot of body heat that would build up in an 85-degree sun.
And like I said, our deferred maintenance list is long. And so we're trying to tackle that right now. And the university has been awesome in supporting us. The Board of Governors have been awesome in supporting us when it comes to funding that we need through some of these capital projects that we have. So we got the tennis courts redone. We got air conditioning and math eye.
Volleyball courts in there.
We also, this spring, we'll have some construction happening with baseball and softball. Softball is getting a new infield and outfield, a new skin is what they call it. I learn a lot when I go through these projects.
You got the lingo down now.
I know. New fencing, a new backstop, padding added. Baseball is getting padded added. Some new fencing there as well. And then our soccer field.
Right, that's the big one.
I know.
We've got new sport.
So women's soccer will kick off fall 26. So actively recruiting. We have our head coach. We have both our assistant coaches. They have signed some signees. We have some possible mid-years that are coming in. So trying to build a roster there because it's important because we're supposed to play in the fall. So no pressure there.
There's only a little bit of time left.
I know.
It's months, not years now.
But the big thing is turning our intramural field into a soccer complex. So that's going to be happening this spring. We're going to get a press box, Brady. I know, just for you.
Thank you.
And Jeff Weiss, of course.
Yeah, well, Jeff, he needs to be inside.
But press box, bleachers, a new locker room. We're going to be doing a new locker room this spring. So a lot happening to really make, we already have the turf field, we already have the lights, but we need to make it more of a complex in a soccer stadium. So that will be happening this spring. So we're excited about that. So more to come. Like, I mean, it's exciting. There's more on the list, of course. And like I said, I'll be advocating for those things. But, you know, as people come in, donors come in with certain priorities to help our athletic department, we use those dollars as well. And so it's just kind of about balancing it all. But it's exciting time.
All right. Well, you obviously, if you figured out, I like to kind of see how the sausage is made sometimes. So you had a new sport. How do you decide women's soccer? I know there's a lot that goes into it, and obviously there's a lot of options for varsity sports.
Yeah.
How did it end up being women's soccer? And it's been the first new sport Wayne State's had in a while.
Yeah, it has. Over a decade.
Yeah.
And for me, it was another thing of, you know, looking at our athletic department as a whole and where are we when we're looking at gender equity? What does that look like? And it was very glaring that we're outnumbered. Our male to female ratio is outnumbered, as it is in most athletic departments that have football. Like that is
100 football players tend to do that.
It's hard. There's no women's sport that has 100 on a roster, right? So but that is one of the things that I started to really advocate for was, you know, we our gender equity numbers aren't where they should be, and I think we should really add a women's sport. And then you start looking at what sport, what could that be? Women's soccer for a lot of different reasons was something that kept rising to the top. You know, when you're starting to look at adding sports, you start to look at the popularity of sports first, and what does your conference sponsor versus what does your conference not sponsor? And so for us, women's soccer, I mean, we were one of the only schools in the conference that didn't have it for one, and the Detroit area with soccer is booming. And so it's always been in the back of my mind of how successful we could be in soccer, men's and women's, I will say. and all of the nationally ranked clubs that we have in the Metro Detroit area, also with DCFC coming in. There just was a lot of synergy surrounding the sport of soccer. And so it's continued. So we announced we were going to add it. And first and foremost, a lot of people were like, oh my gosh, I didn't even realize you didn't have it. Like, how do you not have soccer? And I'm like, well, yes, I know.
Now we do.
Now we do. But then also a lot of people saying like, oh, wow, you guys are in a hotbed for recruiting. And so don't have to spend a lot of money to go out of state to recruit, right? So all of those things you think about when you're thinking about adding a sport. And so when we sat down and looked at the numbers, it was pretty glaring. The first sport we needed to add was women's soccer.
All right, so that kind of goes into my next question. You know, we've talked about the past, we've talked about the present. Let's talk a little bit about the future. What do you want to see Wayne State happen? I know we talked a little bit about you have to go 6 months at a time, a year, but you always have back of your mind an idea for 3, 5, 10 years down the road. What are some things you hope that people see that maybe freshmen coming in will see when they graduate from here?
Yeah. We talked about that sustained success, right? And so that's the culture that we're building. But also the experience that the student athletes have. And I think the important thing for me is that when student athletes leave here, there's a sense of pride and wanting to come back. And so for me, it's important that really, we're going to continue to grow. I can promise you that. There's some things in the works. I can promise you that. I can't disclose everything.
I know you can't tell us everything, but I have to ask what you have on the plate.
Yeah, so we're excited. We're excited about what the future of Wayne State athletics will look like in 5-ish years. We have great momentum right now. We're doing some good things as far as establishing that foundation of who we are, building on what we've been, and really trying to focus on what is the new Wayne State athletics in the next 5 years with the changing landscape of collegiate athletics. We have a good idea of what that is, and we're excited.
Right. Well, because you might have an idea, and then in 2 years something completely changes, and there's a big left turn.
Good point.
But everyone's in the same boat with that. It's
correct.
Yeah, I'm sure it keeps you on edge every time there's a court ruling or something.
Oh, for sure. Oh, yeah, like, well, that changes things.
Like, all right, how does this affect what I'm doing now?
Yeah.
But no, I think that's awesome. I guess to nutshell it for everyone, if someone just sees one clip and it's this, what's the message to alumni? What's the message to fans of Wayne State athletics about what you want it to be and what you see it being?
Yeah. Your support matters. Being here matters. You matter. And I think being a former student athlete myself, being an alum of another institution, it's so important to me that people know that we want you to be here and we want you to come around. And it's not just the staff and the coaches, it's our student athletes. And I think now more than ever, that mentorship and that support is huge. And it's huge on who we've been, but then also who we're going to be. And so I'm excited to be leading this department. We have an amazing team. We have amazing staff. We have amazing coaches, and everyone wants to be here.
Right.
And so no matter what your experience was as an alum, as a student athlete, a former student athlete here at Wayne State, just know that you are welcomed. We want you to be here. We want you to be a part of it.
It's open arms for everyone.
Absolutely.
Right? Well, I'm excited to see what happens, and hopefully we can talk about a lot of these new developments in the studio as they come along in the next, whether it's 6 months, 12 months, couple years. Hopefully we can, like I said, have a conversation like this maybe every December just to kind of check in with everyone. Like you said, you're not going to write a newsletter, but you'll come in here and talk with us in the Warrior Sports Network studio, right?
There we go. That's exactly what I'll do.
Exactly. So, Erika, I really appreciate it. This has been a lot of fun having this conversation, and I'm glad maybe people at home got to know a little bit behind just the term athletic director or just see, give someone a football before a game or something.
Yes.
They actually get to learn a little bit about you and hear you talk. So I appreciate you letting me have this conversation.
Yeah, and I appreciate you, Brady.
Not a bad way to start off, again, our new weekly show here.
Yeah. it's all about growth, right?
Yes, it is.
All right.
Growth and culture, right?
There we go.
All right. Well, Erika, thank you again. I've been Brady Beedon, and next week we'll have one for you. But this was a great first episode, so happy holiday season to everyone out there listening, and go Warriors.